Hey everybody, welcome back to Daily Notes. My name is Adam Daly, and this episode is presented by Almost Sideways. I'm really excited to have the sit-down conversations with two amazing podcasters and movie reviewers as well. I've never actually interacted with them before in a video or any kind of thing before, other than on Twitter, and I'm really excited for this episode. We have some great, like I said, great podcasters. Anyway, let's just introduce them, shall we? First person, actually, this podcast they're a part of is called Latinx Lens. They just started. Actually, they're relatively new, but they're fantastic. So anyway, let's introduce who the hosts are. And the first one we're going to introduce is Rosa. Rosa, thank you for stopping by and tell us where we can find you on YouTube and social media.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, you can find me on social media at Rosa's Reviews. Again, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And the other host of the podcast is Catherine Gonzalez. Catherine, thank you for taking it up. And where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Things Cat Loves, and that's CAT.
I will say, do not spell it with a K. That's what I
yes.
Do not
do
spell
not,
it.
Yes. Yes.
Don't do that.
You spell that. Yeah. Someone.
Yeah.
That's a no.
That's
Read the email.
That's a quick mute button on Twitter if you do that. Okay. Anyway, so again, we're a podcast. We've been a part. Almost Sideways movie podcast with Terry, Zach, and Todd have been doing this for like 3 years now, and I know that you guys have just started your podcast. I guess the first thing I would like to say, have you guys always known each other, or when did you guys first meet to come up with this idea?
Well, I'll do the meet part, and then Rosa can do the idea part because it was her idea. I think time is so weird right now. So it's like I was talking to someone, I was like, oh yeah, those few years we met ago, and then they were like, oh, we just met last year. But I feel like I followed Rosa like a few years ago, or like last year, I think, sometime, and I did notice she was always so active on Twitter and everything, and I think I had messaged her like once, like a bit, and then I don't know, but then I saw her tweet about starting this podcast, the Latinx Lens podcast, or it wasn't that yet, but it was like the idea of highlighting Latinx representation in film and TV, and back in, I don't know when it was, like February or March, like before pandemic time, I think, but then it was like on the brink of pandemic. And then that's when we actually started interacting. I messaged her and I was like, I want to be a part of this. And then it just felt like we had known each other for a long time, because it was pretty natural, which I know for like a podcast is good. You don't want to be kind of awkward. I just remember us having so many chats because we had a lead into the first episode, and just us like kind of brainstorming and everything. And those chats were so fun. And it's funny because we're both like Mexican American, but have different background. Like I grew up in South Texas, and Rosa grew up in Los Angeles. So even though like we have a baseline of similarities, like we're still very different. So it's fun like hearing how she grew up, and like, you know, the food and different things, and like and living in a big city, and like me coming from a very small town. But we kind of, I don't know, we've talked a lot, and I've gotten to know her really well during this, you know, these times, and it's been a bright spot during the pandemic times, starting this podcast and getting to know Rosa too.
Yeah, absolutely. 2020 has been crazy for sure. But that's awesome that you were able to make that connection. And I'll pass it over to Rosa. You put out something on Twitter, wanting to start a podcast. What was your motivation to start to do something like that?
Yes. So at the time I was taking a film class. It was a race and gender in American film. So for a week, I know Kat's heard this story like a gazillion times. Sorry, Kat, a gazillion and one.
It's good.
And for week 4, we were going to learn about Latino Hispanic representation in the film industry, as well as Native American and Asian American. So we're going to learn about 3 different demographics within 1 week, which should have been a red flag in the first place. And what happens is we're using a 500 page textbook for the class, and for the Latino Hispanic representation, there was only 2 pages of Latino representation and contribution in Hollywood and history, which is almost 100 years of Hollywood history. Only 2 damn pages, and in reality it's a page and a half. That darn page and a half, because the other half a page was a picture of a stereotypical Latin lover who is Rudolph Valentino, who's not even Latino. So in reality, it's just a page and a half. So I was just disappointed, just very disappointed. I was very much looking forward to learning about what we've done in the industry, and how they view us, and how everything we've done. But it was very unfortunate to just read a page and a half, and then that was it. So I just sat there and just disappointed, and I just tweeted out. That's when the idea came to me, to do a podcast solely dedicated to Latinx representation and contributions in Hollywood. And yeah, I posted out a tweet. It was very overwhelmingly supportive. Everybody was supporting it, and they were like, yeah, we would listen to it, and this and that. And that was when Catherine just replied, and she said that she'd be willing to help out, and now we're here. But it just came out of, I guess it was a good thing that there was only a page and a half. Otherwise there would be no Latinx Lens without that. So yeah, it comes from just the lack of history, even in film history of our community. But yeah, I guess it's a blessing in disguise. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we're here, and I've been having a blast. I've learned so much. It's just doing this with Catherine has been just a treat, and learning about what Latinos have done and everything. But also, I've learned a lot about myself in a philosophical way, and our own biases, and how our lack of representation has shaped how we view ourselves and how we view others. So it's been a very it's been a great learning experience overall.
That's awesome. And like I think you just posted your 12th episode right now, and you could definitely see. I try to catch every episode. I try to catch episodes, but there's so much content out there, so I try to get as much as I can. But it's crazy. I listened to your first episode. I believe the first one you did was Edward James Olmos. At least that's one of the first ones you did. Mm-hmm. And seeing where you're just 12 episodes in, you can see the already progression, or you're learning new things. You have different takes on. I think that's awesome. And as somebody, I just started doing. We've been Almost Sideways has been doing a podcast for like 3 years, but I just started doing this different podcasting thing a couple months ago as well. And I've learned that stuff is different in audio form than actually in video. So you have to, describe what you're seeing a lot more and paint that picture. And it's tough, it's challenging, and it's kind of daunting as well. I do want to go back to what you said about the page and a half. That is pretty ridiculous, because I bet that book was pretty thick, and just having a page and a half about multiple cultures that aren't really there. You said Native American, Hispanic, and another. There was like 3 all crammed into one page and a half or something.
No, just for the week. We were supposed to learn
the week.
About
that was
what
a week. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. But no, don't worry. The other demographics didn't have more than 2 pages either. So
that's ridiculous. Well, that's awesome. I'm happy that you guys were able to start up like this podcast here. You're 12 episodes in. What has been one of the things that you're just amazed that you're learning about doing your podcast? What's like an episode that you really like? I've learned so much about like maybe my culture, or just this kind of film medium in general. I'll kick it off to Kat for that.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I wanted to join the Latinx Lens podcast, like when Rosa put out that tweet, I guess, and I think she's also heard this story, but I remember I went on like a gap year to Australia, and it was about like 2014. And I remember up until that point, I think I had always associated myself as like Mexican, like because I grew up in a region in South Texas where it's primarily Hispanic, or we would say Hispanic when I was growing up, and now I know that's like different and like there's different stuff. But I think primarily like Mexican American and all that. But and my school was like 99.9% like people like me, and we would just say, oh, we're Mexican, you know, Mexican like that, whatever. And then when I went to Australia, I actually met Mexicans, like born in Mexico. And I don't know what they were saying, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm Mexican too. And they were like, no, you're not, like you're American or you're gringa or whatever. And then I was like, oh, I was like, I'm Mexican American, you know, or Chicana or whatever. And then that's when I started, like, it kind of like planted the seed of, hey, like, who am I really? And then also just being in Australia, meeting so many different cultures, like I was always around the same people here in Texas. Like in college, I gravitated towards, like, I was going to do engineering, but I went off on a different path. But I was like, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineer, you know, like things like that. Like I always stayed in my little zone. And I think like that, like going to Australia really forced me to like open it up. And then I didn't just blend in, I guess. And then that sort of like made me think about who I am. And when I got back, I don't know, I kind of stopped thinking about that because I was back in Austin and everything, but it just continued on. And then I actually, my husband is Colombian. I met him in Australia. We came over here. Yeah, we got married over there. We came over here. And so also with him, like, he's kind of showed me a different side of like the South American experience and like in that aspect. And, you know, it's sort of just been like a lot of discovery in the last 5 years. And so that tweet really called out to me because I guess I was just wanting to explore it, because it is that sort of thing of the two identities where it's like you get pulled. Like, I thought I was Mexican, but what does that really mean if you grew up in America, you know, if you're Mexican American? But then you don't feel like American enough because of everything that, you know, you didn't grow up in a certain way that's depicted on screen or whatever. And so, yeah, it's just, so sorry, to go back to your question, that was like a long-winded answer of the background.
No, you're good. Perfect.
But so then through all these podcast episodes, like, I have been learning so much because I usually didn't gravitate towards like Latinx like stuff because I don't know, there's stuff I'm more like sci-fi fantasies type thing. Yeah. And some of the shows that have been are like the comedy or whatever, and not that I was not seeking out that representation, but it, you know, I don't know, I just find myself in the mainstream, you know, movies and TV type stuff. But through the podcast, I've gotten to know these actors or filmmakers that we've been highlighting, that they have been doing things that are not just the stereotypical stuff that we've seen, and uncovering that, like with Raul Julia, who I only knew from the Addams Family. Yeah, and seeing all the stuff he did and his background and his theater stuff, and I was like, oh my god, like I didn't even know like that he had done that. And then also, I mean, I knew Edward James Olmos, and he's done a lot of stuff for representation, but kind of dissecting it through this thing that me and Rosa are doing, like Latinx lens, and seeing it a little differently. And like, I guess I also had taken him for granted in a way of what he's actually done, because he's been such a staple. And then Robert Rodriguez as well. Like, I grew up with him, and I was thinking like, oh, you know, I was from Texas, he was from San Antonio. And so I was like, oh yeah, of course, Robert Rodriguez. And then I realized like, oh, it's actually like not a normal thing for him to be this, you know, like that sort of like what he's been able to do. So it's just been like a lot of those little nuggets, thinking I knew, but I don't know. And then we also do a section, which was Rosa's idea, which is I'm glad she brought it up, is doing the you know, we review like an old film and try to find, you know, like what representation was in old Hollywood. And there's been like really good movies that we've discovered, and then some that are so-so, or, you know, they're kind of bad depictions, but it just made me realize like, oh, there is stuff, they just haven't, I guess they've gotten buried because they haven't been highlighted as much as like the other stars or whatever, but they are there. And in terms of like Latinx representation. So that's been really fun to know, like, it wasn't like there was nothing of that in, you know, Hollywood or whatever. It's just that it's kind of been buried, and I'm glad that we're able to hopefully like, you know, if other people haven't discovered that either, or didn't know about those movies, that they're learning as well, because I learned just as much as I don't know, maybe the people who are listening to us are learning.
Yeah,
Sorry, that was like a long-winded answer, but
no, perfect. I like long-winded answers because there's a lot to listen to, so I love it. I did like the Raul Julia episode too. Like I had no idea those other two movies. I just obviously Addams Family is the one you always know.
Yeah.
But those other two movies, I'm like, wow, those are sound really interesting. I put them to my queue to hopefully we'll be able to watch them soon as well. And it's like that's pretty awesome when you guys are doing. I really like when you like. You pick your certain person, actor, director, whoever it may be, and you kind of dissect the three movies that we probably haven't heard of or haven't heard for a long time. You're like rediscovering them through a different your new eyes or fresh eyes, I should say, and that's awesome because you're obviously bringing out to your audience maybe who haven't even heard of that film either. So kind of I saw a post today of somebody said because of your guys' podcast, they're bringing a movie from Raul Julia to their podcast because of that. That's awesome because they would never have known if you guys didn't do that either. So I give you guys huge props for that. I think that's a fantastic thing that you guys are doing too. And yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I can't remember my original question, but I'm going to ask that to you too.
I go off on a tangent.
It's okay. I remember now. What have you learned, Rosa, from your episode podcasting about your like maybe your culture, and what has been like your favorite episode that you have done?
Yeah. There's been so many. They're all fun. They're all fun in their own unique way. But I do have to probably echo a little bit of what Catherine was saying and agree with her that cultural identity and that struggle of having to choose between either being Mexican or American or it's not easy. So watching these films and then just trying to analyze them through our own lens, and it's been it's been a learning process. And because at the moment I'm working on 3 degrees. So one of them is Chica. I know. One of them is also Chicano studies. So as I'm learning and I'm taking those courses as well with the film courses too, I'm trying to balance and trying to learn a little bit about my own history, because unfortunately the only history I've learned, it's either through my parents either telling me whatever it is that they were telling me, family stories, or it's through film or media. And to learn Chicano history from an academic lens, it's completely different. So I'm learning from there, trying to get or understand and trying to get whatever information I'm getting there, trying to bring it to Latinx lens, and then also trying to apply it to my own life. So the identity thing is certainly one that's been a big one for me doing this show. But I think for me the most memorable one, and Catherine's probably heard about she knows, she was there. It's the when we reviewed the tax collector, and just the realization of our own biases, because that's how we grew up. We both didn't like the film. So don't go to the episode and thinking that we're gonna love the film and praise it. We didn't like it. However, we did both realize that we as film lovers and such, we had a little bias against the film. Just naturally had it. So because it is from East LA, and it is involving like gang members and cholos and so on, we both realized that we were already coming with a negative lens. We were already coming to it quite negatively. And it all started because I remember I was just watching Goodfellas, and I texted Kat about it when it ended. I'm like, I didn't like it as much. And I know I'm probably gonna lose followers, but I don't care. And I told her, I'm like, it's very, very like misogynistic against the women. And Catherine told me, well, that's part of the culture. And I remember somebody giving a review of the tax collector saying how misogynistic it was. And I'm like, hold up. So Scorsese can make films with misogynistic culture and doing all these gangs and not gangs, but the mafia and all that good stuff, and they're praised and they're critically acclaimed. but yeah, the Latinos have their own thing. Because if in reality, if you take away pretty much the skin tone, at the end of the day, at the bottom of the barrel, you still got violence, you still got family, and you still have just protection and so on and so
Yeah.
territorial aspects and all that good stuff. But one of them is critically acclaimed, the other one is looked upon as negatively. Why? Let's be honest. Racism. So the moment we both realized that, it was like just a mind-boggling moment for the both of us, because it was just it's just part of how we've evolved that lens, how the way we've been depicted on screen, and it's been ingrained in our brains. So just to realize all those little things have been very, very instrumental, and it's something that's very, and I'm pretty sure we're going to learn a whole lot more. And I've also come to realize that as both of us, as brown women of color, and criticizing it and television and film, we come with an additional set of expectations in terms of Latinx content. We're either expected to love it because it's the only little representation we have, and if we don't, we're looked upon as either traitors or whatever they want to call us. And if we love it, people are going to think we're just saying that because they're Latinx representation. So it's just a fine line that we have to walk through. That's quite challenging at times. But to be honest, every episode I've learned something new, whether it's with the creator or the artist, with the content we're talking about, or even within myself. So it's been a blast. I've liked everything we've been doing with it, and I can't wait to see what else I learn, because it's frankly just a learning experience all around.
Yeah.
Okay,
I haven't seen The Tax Collector, but I actually listened to your takes on it. I'm kind of interested to do maybe like a comparison piece, like watch both of the Goodfellas and Tax Collector kind of, and see like the similarities that you were speaking of, and kind of see maybe like why people come at it differently, and the way that, it's I have to go back and listen to the full episode that you guys were talking about for that film too. I'm definitely interested. It's funny you mentioned Goodfellas, actually, because the other guys actually just deep dove that film, because it is considered Scorsese's like one of his best films, and one of the best films of all time as well. And I haven't seen it for a long time, but I just was like, oh yeah, I really like that movie. But again, I'm coming at it with, a different perspective, unfortunately. And because you guys are relatively new at it, were you guys super nervous and worried about it? But I think I think you guys both kind of already touched on it, but are you guys still nervous when you guys record episodes? Is it still like you still get the butterflies or anything? I'll kick it off to Rosa first.
Yes, always. It's always nerve-wracking when I do a podcast, even if it's Latinx Lens with Kat. And I remember when we first started, I sent Catherine some like pamphlets on text message, just telling her how I sucked and how I needed to. I was just repeating myself, and a lot of and a lot of this and a lot of that, and how I need to work on it, and apologizing.
Yeah,
I still do that every now and then, poor thing. But yeah, no, it's certainly still nerve-wracking. But I think the more you do it, the more you get more comfortable with it. And I guess lucky for me, I get to be a guest on so many podcasts that I'm beginning to get the hang of it. Just beginning. I've been doing this for a few months, and I'm just starting to get the hang of it. But even then, I still get nervous and everything. So it's a learning experience. I don't think I'll ever get comfortable doing these kind of things, because I mean, I'm personally very self-conscious, and I'm not very comfortable in front of a camera. But the only way to get used to it and to get better at it is by doing it. So, but yeah, it's still, I still get nervous.
Yeah, I still get nervous too, and I did YouTube for like almost like 3 years. So I'm just like, yeah, it's still nerve-wracking, and I try to record a Sound of Metal review today for like the intro of this episode. I had to record that thing like 5 times because I would stumble over I get the name wrong. I was like, and then, but I have to start back over because I can't start like where I left off. I got to start. I was like, I was like, dang it. Or the dog was like, and then my dog would come in and just like distract me. I'm like, where was I? I'm like, oh, it's gone. I'll kick it out to Kat. Do you still get nervous during when you get recording?
Yeah, I think not so much in like the aspect of like, because I think we've gotten better at just like having a flowy conversation. But when I hear it back, because I'm the one editing it, I'll listen to stuff and I'll be like, oh, is that going to be like taken badly? Or I don't like I was talking about like that whole thing. Like even now I'm thinking like, oh, what was I babbling about? Like I'm gonna like after this conversation, I'm gonna tell Adam like, can you cut that out? Because it's gonna seem like it's gonna be taken wrong. Like I still have those feelings. And it's so funny because I guess it's just also the culture that we're in is like we're so like we're anxious that we're gonna say something that people are gonna take as like that's who you are. And it's I guess I kind of hope that if you're listening to the podcast and then like if it comes off as a way, like maybe you'll listen to another one and then you'll be like, oh, they're just like learning as well. Like I don't have all the answers. I'm probably going to say the wrong term sometimes. I want, you can correct me also because I'm learning, but yeah, I remember there was this one feedback we got about like that some basically kind of saying like it was constructive, but it was also like a dig. It was like saying, oh, they're very like I like the conversation, but they say definitely and interesting a lot, like kind of amateur stuff. and then I was just like, oh, okay. And then I remember when we recorded, like I had got that feedback. I looked up all the synonyms of interesting and definitely and like typed them out. And then I was like, we started that episode after we got that feedback, and I would like start saying like that's, and then I would be like, oh, that's compelling, and I was like, it didn't sound like me. I'm like that's the way I speak. I didn't grow, I didn't learn a big vocabulary until like later. I don't know. I'm a simple person, and so like I have tried to like that's a goal of mine to get better, and especially when you have like you mentioned at the beginning, like trying to describe stuff, like you can't just say great and amazing and stuff like that. Like you really do have to paint the picture, and I feel like we've both gotten better at that, and trying to really sort of work on that kind of film speak. The general like conversation stuff, I'm like, well, this is who I am. Like I don't. I think I tried to work on the definitely interesting some like a bit, and then I gave it up because I'm like, and then I heard other people talking on other podcasts and videos, and they say like, people, and also like filmmakers and things, and I'm like, they say interesting and definitely too. So it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do get nervous that I sound silly or maybe not as intelligent or whatever. But then I'm like, you know what? That's who I am. And if people are going to judge me based off an hour of just like an hour of my whole life, like, I don't know, like I probably don't care for that person silly. Either. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's also kind of comforting in a way. And I also, even though it's nerve-wracking, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I've done like interviews with filmmakers and actors and things, and those always make me nervous. And this is sort of that same feeling. And it's also exciting because it's like, I feel like if it's too staged, like if we had a script or something, it wouldn't be authentic. Like when I tried changing myself with those synonyms, it didn't work. And I don't know. I think it's kind of fun to also see the snapshot of like when I listen back to the episode, even like a few weeks later or whatever, when I'm editing, it's like, oh, I was thinking that way. Like, I don't know. It's kind of cool to kind of get that little snapshot and not edit it just to fit like what the new version of what Kat thinks, because that was me 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I mean, I got to accept it.
Exactly. That was interesting.
Definitely.
Definitely interesting. No, yeah, I find myself that way too. It's just you get stuck with what you grew up with. That's just how you are. I don't think you shouldn't change who you are, because that's how you see the world. You can't. Somebody else sees the world differently, and they can't. it's just one of those things. You shouldn't change who you are on that stuff. But yeah, I get that. Like, get those constructive criticisms you want to try to change, but it's just like it's just more it's more homework. it's homework.
Yeah.
For us, there's like 4 different people on episodes every once in a while. Like the best of the year episode coming up soon. Like we'll have 4 people, and all 4 of us could have the same movie in our top 10, but we'll all explain it differently or get different things out of it. And one of them is like one of our guys. He actually studied under I'm gonna forget his name, but he's one of the writers of Black Klansman. He actually was like it was the teacher's assistants for his class. So I was like, some of us has like film background, and some of us is like watches so many more movies than a lot of us do, and it's just fun. We all have different perspectives, and we're all unique that way as well. So I will move into kind of, you both have said you got to this feel like got film degrees too. You went for school for film.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and Rosa's working on it. Yeah,
working. That's awesome. Right. What made you decide to go for a degree in film?
Me
or Rosa?
Or who?
We'll go with Rosa first. Because you're just now starting off. How is it going? And then what made you decide to go that route?
Yeah, it's going good. So far so good. I'm doing okay. I'm surviving. Everything's good. But because I just started writing reviews just randomly. It just randomly started with listening to a YouTube channel on a daily basis, and then before I knew it, I was going to the movie theater weekly, every weekend, and trying to get catch up on newly released films. So I figured I think it was Wonder Woman when I just decided to go for it and start doing this and taking it seriously. And not that anybody else would not take it seriously, but and this is just me, if I wanted to take it seriously due to my lack of knowledge in film history, then I figured I had to get a degree and learn about it and get acquainted with film terminology and all that good stuff. So yeah, I just decided to go for it and get my degree. I'm still working on it. It's going well. And actually I had to change schools because the first school I was going, I'm doing everything online. The first school I was going to, they didn't have a class. Somebody had told me that there was a class for that focused on Latino filmmakers and such. So the school I was currently attending didn't have it. So I had to search around, finally found it. And now I transferred. So now I'm doing this not all over again. I was able to transfer. Okay. And at the moment I'm taking a class. It's just Latinos and primarily just directors. And we've gone into with Alfonso Cuarón and Iñárritu, Del Toro, some Brazilian films and Argentinian films as well. So it's been perhaps my favorite class.
That's awesome.
Of course it would be. But it's been good. It's been going well. And I just decided to take it because I'm aware that I'm coming at this I don't have the experience all the critics and reviewers have. I don't even consider myself a critic. I just always say I'm a reviewer because there's critics out there who do criticize the film, and they are far superior writers than I am, that I will ever be. And so in that sense, I think for me, it's just for me. I'm not don't quote me wrong or anything like this. But to me, I knowledge and I want to learn more. I want to know more. I want to know more about history, and I want to know more about filmmaking and so on. And why not? Maybe in the future I'll make a film or something. But at the moment, it's just me wanting to know, and hopefully that would help me with my reviews, and I can be able to elaborate with my reviews. Why do I connect with films and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's kind of working, right? I got the Rotten Tomatoes certification, so I must be doing something right.
That's awesome. Showing your love for passion, just want more of that, more knowledge. That's awesome. That's like, I got to commend you for that. That's something I wish I would have been able to do, go to film school, or just be able to get that again, the knowledge of it as well. I will also pass it over to Kat. What made you decide to go to get a degree in film?
Yeah. Russell's already heard this one too. I'll try to do it, but it always changes a little bit because, like, obviously I'm not the best speaker, but so
let me tell you. So what she did,
Next time we should just do that. We'll tell each other.
Right?
See
We'll
how well
just
we
tell each
remember
other
it.
stories.
Yeah, so I'll do the short version. I've always loved movies, and I think it stemmed from like my parents were kind of strict, and we didn't get to go do a lot of stuff. Like we didn't go on a lot of trips and things. And so I, stayed home. I was the youngest of four. I had older brothers, so like we were and also before there was streaming and everything, you had to go to the video store and get, or you would have to like wait for it on TV, when they were going to show like Walker, Texas Ranger or something. Or like when we did have cable, like on and off, we would beg our parents to like buy the pay-per-view of like, Air Force One or whatever. So I just remember, yeah, I still remember like, cause my mom loves Harrison Ford. And so like, she was like, okay, we'll pay $6 for that. But yeah, so I just remember like it always being something we did in that sense, like, but we didn't go to the theater. I remember always seeing like the videos, like the previews of like, this is coming to theaters. And I was like, oh, we're never going to do that. Like, I would have to like wait for it the next, the 2 years when it came out or whatever. But then I got really into it like as a teenager when Lord of the Rings came out. And I got obsessed and I like read the books. I like, when the DVDs came out for the first one, I was like watching all the special features, extended editions. Like, I would annoy all my classmates with how much I love Lord of the Rings. And then I started watching, I would just go to the section of like Academy Award winning films, like at the video store, and like started watching all of those. And then my mom and me, we would go, we started going to the theater every like weekend when I was in high school for like the 4 years that I was there, before I left to college. And I really wanted to do special effects, because I loved that sort of thing. And, but I don't know, it was just kind of a kid from the back. I don't know. I didn't know how to do that. And so then I went down like a practical path to engineering, and did like 2 years of electrical engineering at UT, Texas Longhorns. And then I just took a film class like as elective, and then as an elective, and I was like, oh my God, like I love this, and I, even though I do like love math and science, I was like, I didn't see myself doing that. And I switched over and yeah, finished off. I went to like did a semester in LA. Thought I would move to LA, but I didn't. And then of course, as many people who are like film graduates, I also realized during that time that I didn't like being behind the scenes as much as I thought I would, in terms of like, it kind of ruined the experience of movies for me a bit. And that's when I started shifting towards like talking about movies, and I wrote for a few sites in college. But then I had to go down a practical path, to find a job and everything. But I found my way back now. When I joined like Shuffle Online like 5 years ago, and I started writing about film. Yeah, I've always loved movies. I think it's always just been an escape. And
Rosa, because you started doing so many more reviews and such, and obviously you have a really good following with your Rosa Reviews Twitter and stuff, so active. You're able to go to like different film festivals. How has that experience been for you?
It's been weird in a sense that majority of the film festivals I've had the opportunity to cover, they've all been virtual. Okay. With the exception of the first festival I've ever attended, which was Sundance for the beginning of this year, which was pre-COVID era. And that was fun. That was just such an unforgettable, it was just unforgettable altogether. I got the chance to go to Salt Lake City and just meet with other film critics, and I met some people that I just follow on Twitter, people I'm very much in contact with, and that was fun. And just the hype and the festival energy that they always have over there was just again an unforgettable experience. But I mean, I'm a Cali girl, Los Angeles born and raised, been here my whole life, but that weather killed me. I hated that weather. I hate the coldness, especially that. No. But you know what, overall it was just a great experience. experience. Covering it virtually though has been certainly very different, because although it does appear that yeah, you can do it at the comfort of your home, you can watch the movies whenever you please, and blah blah blah. But in my case, I have a full-time job and I have 4 kids and a chihuahua and a husband. It's not as easy to sit around at home and watch a movie and just take notes and so on and so forth. Unless they're sleeping, then I can do whatever I want. But yeah, it's been, virtual festivals have been quite challenging, but I've enjoyed it. Overall, it's been a great experience. It's thrilling to watch a movie before anybody else. But it's cool. I liked it. I very much enjoyed it. But yeah, Sundance is certainly the highlight of the year in terms of festivals.
That's you guys have mentioned 2 things I'm extremely jealous of. Like, I want to be able to have the opportunity to go to different festivals as well. Sundance, obviously, it's not. I'm in Washington, so it's not too far away. I would love to be able to go there one time. And also, Kat, you said that you've been able to interview filmmakers and actors and stuff too. That's eventually. I would love to be able to do that too, but I'm perfectly fine with interviewing different creators and getting how they start their journeys off as well too. So you guys are just, you're my rock stars as well. So
it's good. It's good practice. It's good practice.
Exactly, that is true. Don't want to embarrass myself.
Well, no, I've embarrassed myself plenty with like that, and I think, you know what, I think it's so funny because as being someone who's shy, like I was shy, or I guess I still am in a way, but that really helps you kind of break out of like your, for better or worse, like like some actors and filmmakers are like not the best, like, and then you're just like, oh my god, like this is like crashing and burning, and then sometimes you have like really good conversations and you're like, oh, okay, like it's cool. So it's fun, like just on a human level of like what you're gonna get. I think it's good practice, so you're doing good. I think this will definitely help.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's been very fun because I've reached out to people I've never actually interacted with before, like, or other than Twitter, but that's Twitter, and you could be anybody on Twitter.
Yeah.
In a sense. And
we could have been robots.
I've reached out. Yeah, I know. I no, but I've reached out to people. I'm just like, hey, can I interview you? And like Kristen Maldonado, I've had like very like small interactions with her, but I was able to reach out to her, and she's like, yeah, let's have on. I had a fun conversation with her, and then a couple people from the United Kingdom who are video game creators, I was able to interview them, and I kind of fanboyed out a lot with them. And it's like, yeah, so yeah, this is really awesome. This is definitely pretty cool. But I was just like, it's been fun just like meeting different people from different backgrounds and talking to them as well. So that it's just fun. I just like, I love talking. I'm just like, yeah, talking is my favorite. Yeah. Anyway, I know we're kind of getting up on time. I don't want to take too much, but I want to talk about the 2020 movies because you guys were able to maybe see some stuff that we haven't had a chance to. Heck, there might be movies out there that you have seen. If we could do it, like, let's just say a rough like 3 to 5 films or something, that movies that have really like spoken to you this year. They don't have to be actually the best films in your top 10 or anything like that, but just movies that have really spoken to you. And maybe we can just go around the horn, maybe, so we can each like have a breakup. But let's start off with Rosa. What's like a film that has really like kind of spoken to you or has meant a lot to you this year?
Yes. So my favorite film of Sundance was The 40-Year-Old Virgin. I love that film. It's currently it's on Netflix right now. It's just a movie that I was able to relate to on a personal level. Mourning the loss of a parent, being a certain age, and navigating the world through the theme, just being a woman, and just being in the industry and being a screenwriter and just, again, a gentrification at its highest, at its best, and to see it. I think I'm more fascinated by the fact that Rita Blank was the one wearing many hats. She was the director. She wrote this. She starred in it, and it was just phenomenal.
It was amazing.
Amazing. I loved it. I've been just championing that film since I was at Sundance. So Yeah, if nobody's seen the 40-year-old version, I don't know what you're doing. Go watch it. It's on Netflix. But yeah, certainly it's one of my personal favorites. I think it's my it still stands on my number 2 of the year since January. So that should tell you something.
Yeah, that's I think all 4 of us in our podcast they all reviewed that film individually, but yeah, it's I haven't said how I thought about that film yet, but I loved it. It's in my top 10 right now as well too. I really enjoy. I think I enjoyed it more than the other guys did, but I just something that there was something about the movie. I love how it was in black and white too. That was another aspect I really dug.
Yeah.
Okay, Kat, what's a movie that you would that has really spoken to you this year?
Yeah, I've watched a lot more TV this year, but I have watched some. I need to catch up on some of some of the movies, but there have been some that I think they've like I guess I was watching this recently and I had to dive deep into it. But I'm thinking of Ending Things was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I saw it again, and I think I missed a lot the first time because I was kind of like not paying attention as much as and with a Kaufman movie, you really do have to pay attention. And so then I saw the second time and I understood it, and or like not understood it, but like it really it just made me love it even more from the first time. And Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite all-time movies. And I just like I wrote down these like notes that made like it was funny because sometimes especially when you're like on Twitter and things, I feel like your thoughts become like if you read too much about something from other people, you're like, well, why do I even need to watch that? Or like you just feel a little like I don't know, like I don't like I try to scroll through that now because I'm like I want to have my own thoughts. And that movie was really talking about like, you know, whatever you consume, like your everything is everything, and you know, that sort of thing. And I have been struggling with that just in terms of my own like I don't know, relationship with social media and everything, and just thinking like it kind of spoke to me on that level, and also different levels. Just I think the way it's like this beautiful portrait of life, and like that we're all like I don't know. I guess that we all know the inevitable end. You know, we're all gonna die, and then that we all find but then like we humans like to have hope, because then if you just think about the end, we would probably not want to live. I don't know. It's so crazy how like it's like all these always like these internal things that we inherently know, but Kaufman does it in a way where like we never really think about it because we get distracted. Just like the character in the movie Jake, when the young woman when Lucy is like gonna say something profound and like tell him a truth, he's like, oh, and it's like I think like we do that a lot. We distract ourselves because sometimes we don't want to know the reality of what we got to go through or whatever. And I don't know, it just made me think about his movies. Always make me just like ponder so many things, which is good. I love that's my favorite part of movies too, is like being able to continue on the conversation, and yeah, but it all ties in well together. I know some people are kind of confused about it, but I think like all his movies, if you watch them over again, I think they all do tie nicely together. But yeah, I don't know. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, they're like onions. They have layers to them. You have to peel them back and kind of look at it different. You get spoken to them differently every single time. I actually haven't seen that one. It's on my list before I do my top 10. I need to watch that one because I've always been intrigued by it for whatever reason. I just like having kids, and also sometimes when I'm at home and I have to watch certain movies at a certain time because I know my wife isn't interested in those ones. She's like, those are your boring movies. I'm not interested in those. So, but the movie I would mention, I actually just watched today, and I know I spoke about it a little bit earlier on. If you're listening to this on a podcast, The Sound of Metal, Riz Ahmed was just wow on it, and it's crazy because there's a lot of stuff that's going on about in that film about he just loses his hearing all of a sudden, just came out of nowhere, and it got spoke to me more on a kind of a personal level because fortunately I just like this month of November I lost my dad out of nowhere. It's like it just came out of nowhere, and I was able. It's like you can't change what happened. You kind of have to just kind of sit there, kind of like just come think about it, unfortunately. So I was able to pick up on a different, like, think about it on a different aspect, but also seeing Riz Ahmed in that performance was just so raw, and he was, he seemed very, like, he was fearful. He was determined to, like, fix things, but he was also going and doing things he couldn't take back. And it was just like seeing his performance was just so, like, this guy was phenomenal, an actor from, like, Nightcrawler and The Night Of, and a lot of people know him from Star Wars, but, like, this is the movie that if he doesn't get like a nomination in some award circuit, it would be kind of like, what were they thinking? like did they not watch this movie? And also the sound design of that film was fantastic. So that's A Sound of Metal is something that I haven't stopped thinking about it today. Granted, I just watched it today, but as I was, like, sitting there doing my little review for it, I was like, I want to watch this again. Like, I just got done, and not many movies do that for me. I can't just, like, watch a movie and then rewatch it. Like, the next movie I watch is the same one, but that Sound of Metal is definitely one that I really liked a lot. So, like, I kind of got some minor Whiplash vibes in it as well to me. All right, Rosa, how about another movie from you?
I'm probably gonna go with a film that's gonna be coming out in Christmas, and that is Soul. It's certainly a Pixar film, the newest Pixar entry to the repertoire. It's certainly a movie that, at first, when I first watched it, I've seen it twice. When I first saw it, it wasn't very. I didn't consider it to be up in the level of Inside Out or Up, or what in my opinion, my favorite Pixar film. There's no bias, but it's Coco, and it's not at that level yet. It's one of those films that stays with you. Kind of similar to I'm thinking of Ending Things. Soul looks at the meaning of life, the purpose. It leaves you thinking of what is passions and your motives and what it's just, after seeing that movie, you will probably want to go take a walk around your block and just look at the sky and look at the trees and admire the trees and let the wind hit your face, and just every little aspect you can think of that has to do with life, that reminds you that you're alive. It's certainly gonna just give you a different perspective and a different lens on it. It's the more I talk about it, the more it's growing on me. So it's probably gonna sneak up there. But yes, this film is certainly going to make you acknowledge your five senses: your vision, your taste, your touch, your feeling, your audio, everything. And of course, it's Pixar, so make sure you have your tissue box ready. And certainly a movie it's gonna meet. I mean, it met my expectations. I'll probably have to watch it once more just to see where it ranks, but it's stayed with me since I watched it. And yeah, certainly recommend watching it on Christmas.
Oh yeah, definitely gonna be one of my triple feature films on Christmas. I already got my 3 picked out, so it's gonna be fun times there. Inside Out and Coco are also my 2 favorite Pixar movies as well. Yay! So yeah. Perfect. Kat, how about you? What's next for you?
Yeah. So I was talking about relationship with social media and stuff, and there was, like, a time where I was really busy a few months ago, and I kind of was off of it more than on. And for some reason, I started watching the Yellowstone series. Me and my husband did. He doesn't really binge anything. And so it was kind of a special thing, and I wasn't on social. I don't know. It just felt so, like, we got really into cowboys on Montana, and we were like, oh my God, we want to go there. And then, like, it's so funny because a week or two later, I got a PR email from a documentary called Cowboys, a documentary portrait. And I saw the trailer, and I was like, oh, this is, like, actual real life cowboys that they're documenting in this, like, very kind of, it felt like the Yellowstone-ish, but, like, the real version of Yellowstone. And I was like, what? Like, it just felt like such nice coincidence that, like, I had this, like, really nice moment spending time with my husband with, like, this show, bonding over this show. And then, like, really get it. Like, I was like, and I think also just, like, I'm trying to get more in touch with my Mexican side. I'm also, like, I'm not really, like, I haven't ridden a horse, and, like, you know, I didn't grow up on a ranch, and I'm from Texas. So I also feel like, in addition to, like, the Mexican and American, I'm also, like, trying to find my Texan side. And so it just felt like, hey, I want to go down that rabbit hole too. And it's so beautiful the way they shot. Like they shot a bunch, like at like a bunch of different ranches. And it wasn't like I know a lot of like it was made by by co-directors who are in that, like, I think one was a former rodeo person and like a different, also like a cowboy or whatever. And so it just felt so like, it felt like more a day in the life, and they would go through these things and it was like no judgment. Like it was just showing like a way of life that is so different to the way we live. The hardship and like what these cowboys do, and the culture of that too. Like they're very well dressed, and it's not just like, it's not the way they depict it. Like, it's funny because I'm talking about representation of cowboy, I'm defending them, but like, they also have been portrayed in a certain way where, like Yellowstone is showing the modern cowboy, like that television show that I think a lot of people don't really know. And I think that's why, especially during COVID times, I guess I was like, man, like that seems like a place I really want to go to right now. Just being out in nature and not like, I don't know. I think that's why it came at the right time. And then this movie came at the right time, or this documentary did. And I would just recommend it to people because I think it's nice to I think a lot of us forget that that's where like a lot of like where we started a little bit, like, and they do hard work and, I don't know, they don't expect anything in return. And I don't know, it's just, it's like it's a completely different way of life in my eyes. And it's so fascinating to me. And then there were, ranches in Texas that they highlighted. I'm like, oh my God, I want to go there. So hopefully, maybe after this weird time, kind of go and get in touch with that sort of way of life, which I don't think a lot of people really know about.
Yeah. That's awesome. That sounds so interesting.
And it's on VOD, so you can go rent it, I think.
Rent it. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Actually, my next movie too is going to be a documentary. I'm also a wrestling fan. So my next one is a documentary. There you go. You might hopefully, I don't know, hopefully maybe you've heard of this one, but this one is it's called You Cannot Kill David Arquette. It's about,
I haven't seen it yet though.
It's about David Arquette, and back in the late 90s, early 2000s, he actually became WCW champion, which is like a big controversial thing that happened because he was not a professional trained wrestler. He was only there to promote a movie, and he became so hated and blacklisted in like Hollywood. He's known for the Scream movies, but we can't, like, he did a lot of roles after it because he just had to take jobs. But seeing him, he's basically an underdog, but in this documentary he decides, I'm going to go back into professional wrestling and actually do it right this time and trained. So he actually goes down to Mexico in this documentary and gets trained by lucha libres in the film, and he actually street fights on the streets of Tijuana, like at red lights. They would and they go out, ask for money too, and he gets trained, and he actually had this mask too, where the guy actually gave him a mask, like, you're going to wear this mask for the fight too. And then at the end, the trainer, the lucha, he actually took off his mask, and that's a big thing, a sign of respect. If they take off their mask, they always keep their identity hidden. And so seeing that progression, where when he first started off, he was like some backyard wrestling where he got like brutalized because he's diehard wrestlers that didn't like what he did to the business, quote unquote the business. But seeing him going from his like training to his big publicized death match that he had, where he almost died for real, and they showed this fight, and but seeing that progression from like, he's actually a true underdog and he actually fulfilled his dream. And it wasn't just like a David Arquette was in this film, but they actually got Patricia Arquette in it, and Courtney Cox was also interviewed for it too. And RJ City was one of the wrestlers actually called them out to have a big publicized, like his first big wrestling match. So I've seen it twice already. I even watched, my wife was super interested. My brother-in-law was super interested in it, but it's one of those movies that to make my top 10 because it was just so like, this story is so crazy that it's crazy to see like this guy that I just know from Scream, that he was able to like prove people wrong and actually change people's perspective. The people that were outcast, like didn't want anything to do with him, actually brought him in with open arms because he actually did it right this time. So it was like, that was pretty awesome to see. So that's something I would highly recommend if you're a wrestling fan. You Cannot Kill David Arquette. So Rosa.
Nice. Well, I'll keep the documentary trend going. And I'm going to talk about the first film I ever watched at a festival, in this case, which was Sundance. And I mean, I guess it was meant to be. My first film ever at a festival was Mucho Mucho Amor. The story of Walter Mercado, the Puerto Rican astrologer who has been a prominent image and just a figure in the Latinx community. I personally grew up seeing him on television. My mom would always be daily on a daily basis. She would be in front of the television waiting for her horoscope, and just like the same way it's being depicted in the documentary. We weren't allowed to talk when he was on screen. We would just solely focused on him and whatever he had to tell us on our horoscope and stuff. So yeah, just to see his story and see everything from growing up in Puerto Rico, and then how he got started in television, and then eventually he would go on to mainstream television and become just an international icon. Sadly, I was not aware of what happened to him. I mean, watch the documentary, you'll find out. And it was very eye-opening to me because I just grew up seeing on television, and then that was it. I just stopped watching TV, so I never knew anything about him. Sadly, he passed away a year ago. He passed away the festival was in January, and he passed away in November. So just 3 months after the documentary was released, and everybody knows that. Everybody thinks that he already knew what was coming. That's why he allowed the documentary to be made. But yes, it's currently streaming on Netflix. Mucho Mucho Amor. The Legend of Walter Mercado. Highly, highly recommended. It's so good.
Yeah, that's another one. I remember my wife vaguely remembers him, so it doesn't really that she didn't grow up watching him, but she remembers her grandparents talking about him.
Yeah.
So I definitely have to check that out. Kat, how about you? What's next for you?
Yeah, I'll go with another documentary. And I won't. It's probably not going to be like on top list or anything, but you were talking. It's like you mentioned that it's like which ones resonated with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I was talking about like my relationship with social media. I saw The Social Dilemma that was on Netflix. And that one, I remember I texted Rosa. I was like, oh my god. And it really highlighted like a lot of different things in a way that I hadn't thought about before. Just in turn and not just within like your specific individual usage, but the way like if everyone's on this platform now or like different platforms, we're all so anxious. We're all just seeing what we want to see, like that sort of thing. Like it kind of like speaks to a lot of different things. And I was like, oh my God, like but then it also I think it did showcase like the good stuff. And I think there is a lot of good. Obviously I met Rosa there. And so I don't want you to think I'm like a negative on like I love social media. I've been on it since like 2009 or whatever, but I just have like I guess during this time it's like you see certain things and the negativity and you just question, right? And so the reason why I like that documentary is it just made you question like what do you want your relationship to be with this because of this and this and like how people market to you and like and also like the conscious decision of like am I only getting the information that I want to, like I think it's good when you don't get stuff that you agree with too. That's how you grow. And so that also I've been trying to like seek stuff out now, like that is not necessarily just a wide range of things. I think we forget there's an algorithm like being programmed to us. And so that I don't know, that documentary just will make you think a lot about your relationship with social media and like I guess how you might want to move forward. But then I forgot about it. I'm like, I'm still doing the same thing, but I'll probably need to watch it again.
Yeah.
But I would highly recommend it if you're just curious. It's like an objective view because when you're using it so much, you think you don't have a problem or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Netflix does a fantastic job of a lot of their documentaries, man. They put out some good ones, like some must-see ones. So I definitely have to check that one out as well.
Yeah.
I'll keep it with Netflix, and this actually is a movie that is probably going to get nominated for Best Animated Feature, and that is going to be Over the Moon. The reason why this one speaks to me a lot is because this is actually the very first movie that I got a screener for was this one. I just started, and I got 3 screeners this year, and this was one of them. And the Trial of Chicago 7 was the other one. But Over the Moon for me, I was able to just sit down and enjoy this with my daughter. But I also love like learning, kind of like seeing this culture that I don't know much about, if anything, and seeing them like be brought in, having a cast that is just all like authentic to that culture, and seeing the story. It's just like the story. It's a very similar story to a lot of the animation movies that we have seen before, but it was done in such a beautiful way, and I love the animation. I love the colors in there too, and I think there's a lot of the songs, the music that I downloaded from iTunes, and we listen to them in the car because my daughter will ask for them, and I think it's a very interesting film, and I boldly said that this is the best animated feature film of the year. That's without seeing Soul, for me anyway. So I really love Over the Moon a lot. I think it's it's a story it's a familiar story, but it's a story that it was a good like kind of gateway into this culture way in a mainstream way as well. So I thought that was a very good film, and also a little more special because that was my very first screener that I ever got. So thank you, Netflix.
But I am sorry to break your heart, Adam, but I'm about to talk about the actual best animated film of the year, and it is not Soul. Actually, to me, it's actually Wolfwalkers.
I forgot about that one. Yes, that's the one I'm writing it down. I won't forget it now.
Yay! Oh man, I had the opportunity to watch this at the previous festival that I was covering, and oh my. This is a beautiful film, an animation that's rarely utilized. It's going to be coming on Apple TV, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And yeah, it's magical, and it just how all these fantasy. It's just beautiful, gorgeous to look at, and the story it can be a bit formulaic. It gives you some of this Brother Bear Brave vibes, but it somehow finds a way to make it its own unique thing, and it's just, oh man, I hope that somehow, some way it gets best animated film. I highly doubt it though, but you know what, I can dream. But yes, no, Wolfwalkers, it's certainly a movie I very much highly recommend everybody to see. And yeah, and I'm not entirely sure when it comes out, but yes, definitely watch it. It's really, really, really good.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that one, but I definitely remember, like right when you said it, it's like, duh. All right, what's the next one for you, Kat?
Yeah, I think one that I enjoyed, I think it was the last one I saw in theaters because I actually got to go to a press screening with very few people, so it was safe. Double masked it, but I saw Tenet. Very much the very loved and hated Tenet, which I think a lot of that I kind of, like I said, I kind of take out the noise of it around movies because I think that's not part of the actual movie, and I don't know, I like Christopher Nolan. I think it's funny. I think we talked about it on one of our podcast episodes, but it seems like sometimes like the thing that a director does in the beginning of his career, if he continues or he evolves or whatever, but he still has that same style, it becomes sort of like people get tired of it in a way, even though like that's who he is. And so to me, I find it a little bit funny that like that's what you loved about him in the very beginning, and then he's doing the same thing and kind of trying to, like he likes doing that. He's trying to give you this big blockbuster type, crazy thing that makes you think whether you like it or not, it's an event. And I like those kind of movies. I like the big blockbuster movies. And he's not doing anything different than he did before. So I don't know why people there was so much kind of like animosity towards it. But I can, everyone has their own opinion. But I remember I think it was, I understood why he wanted you to watch in the theater. I don't think, depending on now, it's not appropriate, but like I was there, and it might have just been because I hadn't been in a theater in a long time either. But so maybe I got to watch it again later on. But it was just like I almost wanted to cry just because it felt like the sound, all the big sound. Yeah, the some of the dialogue was like I couldn't hear, but like I don't know. I think it was just, it made sense and it didn't make sense. It's sort of like a Kaufman. He reminds me of Kaufman in a different way, like more in a, like he's doing like the mainstream version of a Kaufman in a way, but in a very, but a little bit more pretentious. Like I don't think Kaufman's pretentious. I think Nolan can come off that way, but I think he just loves movies a lot too, probably. But yeah, I don't know. All that to say, I really enjoyed it. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's one I wish I would have seen in theater too. I haven't seen it quite yet. So because up here in Washington we had like our super strict guideline, like the theaters weren't even opening, and there's one theater that had it. It was down. It's actually pretty close to me, but it was one of those. I couldn't find a weekend to get away to watch the 3-hour movie, and then the drive-in that we would go to go see it, because the district wasn't, or that county wasn't, the normal theaters weren't open for the county. The Tenet wasn't able to play on a drive-in because the other theaters surrounding it weren't open, because there was like a restriction on that movie. So I was able to see New Mutants but not at that drive-in, but not Tenet, which I've kind of bummed out. But maybe I like New Mutants,
which is yeah. And it was funny too, because like in the movie they have the mask on, and I was just like, oh, this is like really weird too, because it's like I have a mask on too. But I just love that his like his sci-fi version is like very well-dressed suits and stuff, and not like the tropey like we're in space kind of thing. And I don't know, it's like it's like 007 in sci-fi version. I don't know. So I like that.
Nice.
I might lose followers for that one.
Okay, so the next one that I have is let me double check, make sure. I think Rosa might have seen. Well, actually, maybe I don't know. Maybe. Did you guys see Rent-A-Pal? It's a super it's like a horror movie. I don't know. Okay, so let me set this one. This is a super small film, directed by John Stevenson, and it has Will Wheaton in it. But basically, it's this guy in like I guess the 90s. It's before the internet was really huge, but he gets videotapes of like people like from this dating like company, I guess, like that, and has a bunch of video of like the women kind of introducing, tell her hobbies, and he would like write on a card if he would like to get in contact with that person, and he has to record like his video too. But anyway, so he's kind of a depressed guy. His mom's kind of suffering from like I guess like dementia and stuff like that too, not remembering who he is. And he goes back to the dating company to record more footage for a new tape or whatever to go out to the different people. And he sees this cassette there, and it's called Rent-A-Pal. And it basically, you don't know if the tape's actually seeing him through the screen. And I don't know. There was something about that movie that it was just like gave me a creepy vibe to it that I've always thought has stuck with me. And Will Wheaton was like just really weird. Because the guy would be like sitting there just talking, and Will Wheaton's like, "Oh, really, champ? How is like that?" And he would respond to him just like they're having a conversation to his TV, and it's so weird. It's like pre like any dating website or app or anything like that, and it's so kind of an interesting glimpse into that little like that piece of like 90s culture, I guess, like that too, with like the VHS and stuff. But Rent-A-Pal was definitely one of those movies that even my wife was like, yeah, there was something about that movie that really kind of like creeped us out about it and just stuck with us. So if you kind of wanted like a small indie film that is not really out there too much, Rent-A-Pal is one I was able to rent on Amazon, and it might be an honorable mention or make my top 10 of the year, because it's just one of those movies that has stuck with me. And also I tweeted the director. The director said, "Thank you so much for checking out our film." So it's another personal connect. That's the first time a director ever tweeted me back. So I was like, there's something about that film I really did like a lot.
Nice.
All right, we'll go around one more time because my wife just got home too, so we'll go one more time around. So,
all right, I'll make it quick. I want to talk about a film that's probably in a lot of people's #1 spot at the moment. It's certainly on my top 5 of the year, and that is Promising Young Woman. Also comes out on Christmas, if I'm not mistaken. And believe the hype, Carey Mulligan gives a phenomenal performance in this film. I was rooting, I was cheering, I was finally being heard in some sense to see a movie that's from the female lens and viewing it myself with the female lens of just challenging the patriarchy, the misogynistic mentality that we're so used, that it's so ingrained into our psyche, was just freaking fascinating to watch. I love this film. It's certainly a movie that has a shocking ending, unexpected, so to say. And it's a movie that's certainly going to be controversial for some people, particularly men. But it's just a movie that it's so stylistic, and again, Mulligan is amazing in it, so she elevates the whole film to a whole different level. The soundtrack, I want to get it ASAP. And it's just one of those films that I understand why it was so. I missed it at Sundance, but I was able to see it now. But I understand why it had all the hype, and why a lot of people it's their number one film of the year. Certainly a movie that I highly recommend watching, particularly if you're a man, because it just speaks a lot, about the Me Too movement, and about consent, and about sexual abuse, and rape, and a lot of these topics that don't often get discussed, but that deserve to be talked about. So certainly a movie I highly, highly, highly recommend. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, Promising Young Woman is actually part of my triple feature I want to have on Christmas, because I just would wanted to watch that movie. I've heard so many good things about that movie, so definitely got to check that one out. Catherine, how about your next one?
Yeah, I saw this one earlier in the year, and me and Rosa have talked about this, but I love period pieces. I love Jane Austen. I've watched like all the TV series, all the movies. The Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley is one of my favorites. I used to watch that a lot in high school. And so as much as I love them, sometimes I'm hesitant with like new versions of them. Especially if you have like in mind the others that have been done, right? So I actually put off watching Emma for a while, the one with Anya Taylor-Joy, and because I was thinking like, oh, I don't know, from the trailer I didn't really get like, I just thought it was going to be something else, and I was kind of hesitant about it because I love period pieces so much. But then when I did finally see it, I was like, why did I wait so long? It was so good, it was so fun, and especially with that genre, it can be hard to bring something new to it sometimes. And I think they did a really good job of like doing that through like the costuming, and making it like feel in that time period, but also being modern. And Anya Taylor-Joy is really amazing, and like she's also in one of my favorite shows, like the Queen's Gambit of this year. And so I don't know, I think, and then of course the big thing for me in those period pieces with Jane Austen is like the love interest, and I fell in love with Johnny Flynn, and so I was just like, I don't know, it was really surprising, and it was a pleasant surprise with Emma. So or I don't know if you're supposed to say like Emma period or Emma whatever, but but yeah, I love that one, and I actually kind of want to watch it again because I haven't seen it since I watched it earlier in the year. But yeah, that's one of my favorites. Anytime they can get a good period piece in 1 year, I love it.
There we go. I definitely haven't need to see that one. I haven't seen it quite yet. I think one person from our site has seen it, so I've heard good things about that one as well. And I love Anya Taylor-Joy, so I don't know why I haven't watched it yet. So the last film that I want to mention here is another one playing on Amazon Prime. It's Uncle Frank with Paul Bettany and Sophia Lillis. This is another one that I recently just watched, and I haven't really stopped thinking about it. I think that's mostly because of Paul Bettany has like what he was able to what he went through the whole film, and you're slowly kind of learning peeling the layers back and seeing his relationship with his father, played by Stephen Root, was wow, that was one of my oh my goodness like moments of the year. Just like what a heartbreaking thing, like what brought me to tears, but like he was able to do. And the ending was also like the ending is a very kind of true ending. There's people that will accept you, some people that will not accept you no matter what happens. And I was also really just glued to like Sophia Lillis's character. And from this one, obviously people are going to know her from It, but she was really good in this movie. I thought she was like one of her favorite performances. But the guy who plays Paul Bettany's boyfriend is Wally. I really loved him, and he's played by Peter McDizzy. I'm not probably saying that right. I apologize, but he was just like, he gave a different kind of energy, and he kind of brought some lightheartedness to the role too, but also just like a charisma that I just like. I was like, wow, I really like that like that guy a lot. But the whole film in general, I thought I just wanted to see more of it. I thought it kind of ended or kind of abruptly, just ended at this point. It's like, well, this is my Uncle Frank, and everybody kind of just like when they're accepting him or not, and then just kind of ended. I wanted to see more of it actually, so that's one movie that I was really thinking about, like this. The effects that we can have by judging people too. I just that's kind of a small little film there, but Paul Bettany I think gave his best performance in that one. So I see Uncle Frank. It's streaming for free, so you don't have to pay anything for it. So it's another good one. Anyway, yeah, I appreciate all those awesome recommendations. There's some movies I definitely need to check out too. There's so many movies that I have missed that I like. 9 Days is another one I want to see that I've heard really good things about.
It's really good.
Yeah, Mirai with, I think it's how you say it, but with Stephen Yeun, A24 film that
Minari.
Yeah, there it is.
It's really good too.
Yeah. Has there been any movies that you've been really wanting to watch that you haven't seen quite yet?
I have a lot to catch up on. I haven't seen Possessor. I've heard that's really good. I haven't seen First Cow. I heard that. I don't know what else. I have screeners for them, but I just haven't had a chance to watch them. The Prom and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So they're eventually going to be coming. I'll be watching them soon. But yeah, I think those are the ones so far that I've been. I haven't seen Tenet either, but I'm not in a rush to see it either. So, or New Mutants. I'm just like whatever. Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to see New Mutants.
Yeah. But yeah, I think those are the ones for now. I think First Cow, whatever is like the Academy Award things, and since I'm a part of several critics societies, associations, and groups, and when it comes time for our awards, there's going to be a lot of documentaries and probably foreign films that I need to catch up on. So yeah.
I watch I guess I've just watched a lot of TV this year. Oh, I think it was like delayed a little bit. So I watch a lot of I've been watching a lot of TV. Rosa knows this. But so I need to catch up on a lot of the movies. And I don't know. There's a lot that I need to see. So I do want to see Promising Young Woman. I want to see Minari. Yeah, I think there's just so many, but I'm going to kind of put a pause on it just because I want to watch the holiday movies. And then I'm moving into a house in 2 weeks, so I'm also going to be like kind of but then we're getting a TV, so on Christmas Day, I like a bigger TV. I'll be watching all of those movies. So
there we go.
So that HBO announcement, I was like, yeah, I do need to buy that 85-inch TV, right?
Yeah, exactly. That talks about some controversy on Twitter about that, huh? that was a fun scrolling through after Warner Brothers made that announcement. But anyway, that's a conversation for a different time. Anyway, we'll wrap it up right there, guys. But I really do appreciate you guys taking some time out of your evening and talking movies with us, and can get your journey into your podcasting world, and also talking about giving us some awesome recommendations as well.
Yes, thanks for having us on. I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, I like rambling. It's all good. Can we get like what's your your next episode, so we can be looking out for that on Latin Excellence?
Yeah, we're going to have release our episode. It was our first TV episode that we dedicated just to one show, which is The Crown season 4. Like I talked about, we love period pieces. So that was like one where we got to geek out on, because that was something that we had talked about early on when we got together, but we just never had a chance to like do anything like that. And then that came out and we were like, yes. So we really talked a lot about that for like an hour and a half. And then we're going to be doing a top 10 like TV shows and movies episode that will end our year. And then we'll start again next year.
There we go. Perfect.
Oh no! Oh, sorry. And then I
go ahead.
forgot. We're doing we're doing Guillermo del Toro.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We're
I was looking
covering-
forward to that one.
Yeah, so I'm actually excited to talk to Rosa about that. So we're doing I guess the unofficial trilogy, right? Kronos, The Devil's Backbone, and then Pan's Labyrinth. And I hadn't seen the first two. I'm a big fan, but I hadn't seen the early ones. So I saw them and I was like, oh my God, I love him even more. So we'll kind of go into that. So those are 3 episodes that are coming out, and then we'll be done with 2020.
Awesome. That's awesome. And I'll make sure to leave the links to your guys' podcast and your social medias down in the show notes of this video as well as podcast episodes. So make sure you guys head over and share some love to Rosa, Kat, and Latinx.